Rebekah Sobel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you, Josh.
I wanted to begin by actually talking about your background in anthropology. Why did you go into anthropology?
So when I was in college, I did a year abroad at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and we had the opportunity to go on an archaeological dig as part of our program. And that kind of got me hyped up on archaeology. So when I got back from that year abroad, I started looking into graduate programs in archaeology and decided that archaeology itself was too small, and most American archaeology programs are within a larger anthropology graduate degree. So
I didn't know
that wasn't too hard.
I didn't know that.
Get there. Yeah.
What captured your attention?
I really like the idea of trying to understand the past through objects. And that kind of was also pretty big zinger for moving towards museum work. Culture is a big part of it, and trying to understand what things people used and why in the context that they did is fascinating. Also, what I was learning was that stuff that comes out of the ground and then gets cleaned, goes to a collection, and then somebody puts it on display, they have to write something about it. And lots of times what's written about it doesn't really contextualize what it was accurately or where it was found, or you have to pick and choose. You have to curate that little label. And so that whole process to me is still, 30 years later, still fascinating. How things get described, how things get misdescribed,
Yes,
or misinterpreted.
appropriated,
life study, life's work. Appropriated. Yeah. Who's speaking? Talking about voice, or who's sharing about what this thing is, or what people did with it, or what people didn't do with it, or who used it.
I'm curious as to whether your studies, anthropology, archaeology, have given you how they've informed how you look at and understand what's happening in Jewish culture. But before that, I'm just curious, when you were in Israel doing that work, do you think it was different for you working in that as a Jew?
So one of my additional archaeological experiences was actually with Christian college students who were much more invested in the history that was found at the site than I was.
Right.
Which was fascinating. So we were teaching college students from Christian colleges in the South how to excavate in, which is a Roman port city on the coast of Israel. But the whole point of the dig and the funders of the dig were looking for Peter's house, Peter in chains.
Wait, Peter in chains?
Yeah, he was chained. He was handcuffed, and taken away and housed in the port city before they sent him back. Well, we were looking for someone's house in a warehouse district on a coast that wasn't necessarily easy to find. Like, this is a specific person's house, right? So there's all kinds of questions there, but fascinating nonetheless.
Very cool.
And along the way, we would find bones.
Wow.
And they're automatically animal bone. Right. So for all kinds of other reasons. So it was a lot of fun to think about seeing stuff come out of the ground, and then the whole interpretive process on different levels.
Did it inform or change how you think about being a Jew? Having your hands in the soil of the land of Israel and looking at our layers?
I think on some level, it probably helped me be more connected to some kind of identity with Israel. So
yes.
I guess
yeah,
that was something that helped me think about my Jewish identity and my connection with Israel.
Yeah.
Sure. Can't deny that.
Yeah, you can't. It's powerful. The question of indigeneity has been so at the forefront, and either people on the right in the Jewish community or people on the left in the Jewish community have used it as a bludgeon in various ways. I wonder if your work there had any effect on your understanding of that discussion.
Well, I will say that the sites that we were excavating in are much older than any of the current debates. So seeing objects or fragments of objects come out of the ground from successive occupations of all kinds of different civilizations, it's hard to land on a definitive ownership of land
Right.
in that debate. Right. Okay, so let's start with that.
Right.
In working with people that are devout Christians and devout Jews, like really stuck to these ancient, modern living texts that we have that guide religious belief and practice, it's hard to think that none of it's true, and it's hard to think that all of it's true.
Yes.
And it's endless debate. Like there's no one that's going to definitively say this is what this was and this is not what this was. It's also interesting to me that we look at modern boundaries of countries, and yet we find Byzantine tile sculptures like across a huge expanse, like the Roman Empire. So people today don't think about the boundaries of the Roman Empire. They just think about countries. So
Right.
So that interchange like helps me think more about the different layers and contexts of changing culture. And so reading about the Crusades or reading about the Roman Empire, reading about even the story of Odysseus. Is it true? Is it not
Right.
true? Well, there's some archaeological things that may have been true
Yes.
about that story. And also like it's nice literature. So
Yeah.
can we accept it for
Right.
what it is and enjoy that no one's going to actually ever know?
People think in terms of country in a modern context with, very precise borders, et cetera, et cetera. Culture doesn't care about boundaries. Culture doesn't care about rules. And so it is fascinating because I think that the way that people use some of this historical information is really funny. You can line up all the facts in the world. There's certain contingents of the Jewish world who are just not going to accept or listen.
One of my professors at Hebrew U took us on walking tours of Jerusalem. And every week we went on almost the same walk, but he pointed out something from a different era of time.
Oh God,
It was
that's so
fascinating. It was amazing.
so beautiful.
I still have his book that he wrote. It's not published. It's just like an A4 size, like copy of pictures and his writing about what the different layers of Jerusalem are, how they're interpreted simply by walking.
This is going to sound like a weird question based on what you just said. Is A4 that size that's like this? Yeah, the reason I asked that is
It's a
because
European size paper.
I have my dad's thesis, my father of blessed memory, his thesis, and it's in this not very fun to read format, mimeographed on that paper. I'm just interested in you and anthropology and archaeology, and I think that stuff is so fascinating. But also, I imagine that it gives you, it puts you in a position of having a unique and useful perspective, I think, and I'm wondering your take on this, about Jewish culture, because you, if I'm understanding the thread of your work and where you've been, you're not just a person who assembles and looks at the past and appreciates it, but you're a person who's also observing how other Jews are observing the past. What your thoughts are, because it seems to me that Jewish culture is in such a point of flex right now, transition maybe, and I do wonder how your academic background has led you to think about what's happening in this moment of transition in Jewish culture.
So a lot of my academic background that I brought to my anthropological study is part and parcel of trying to understand the history of the display of Jewish culture.
Right.
So there are lots of people that have written about this before my exploration. So the reading of folks like anybody from Franz Boas, who was the starter of the American Museum of Natural History in New York, Jewish fellow who wrote about the antithesis and the fight over, what's the word? Now I just lost the word. Race science. So measuring people's bones of different cultures and saying there's no difference. They're all humans, right? Doesn't matter what the skin tone is. So starting there through many anthropologists that took their Jewish upbringing to South America, Africa, Indonesia, comparing all of what they saw with their own experience about culture from different aspects of their Jewish background. From Malinowski and Geertz to, so many. And I wasn't prepared to have this conversation, so I don't have a list in front of me. But
it's okay. No one's listening to this for academic, research. So
modern anthropologists that write about the display of Jewish culture. Barbara Kirshenblatt-Gimblett, she's the chief curator of the Polin Museum that opened recently in Warsaw. Norman Kleeblatt, who writes all about the resurgence of the display of Jewish culture in Poland after the Holocaust. Just fascinating how all kinds of non-Jewish vendors, retail people, cultural keepers started selling Judaica in public markets in the 70s in Poland. And what that is even about. Just fascinating. So now I lost the thread of the question.
I guess my
how has this influenced
I'm just wondering, you have a rich background in thinking about how people think about culture, right? And in particular how Jews do. I know I had been poking around a little bit, more than a little bit, looking, papers you've read, Imagineering Israel. And by the way, you should not assume that our audience has read these things because folks are generally accustomed to talking about art and culture. But I guess as you said, as you alluded to, like you've studied and written about how Jews react to and present their own history. And I'm just wondering what the hell is happening right now in the Jewish world. I'm wondering if you have thoughts about the ways in which the Jewish, how we talk about the Jewish past and Jewish culture is changing right now.
I mean, there's not one answer to that question. There's probably 50.
What's your answer?
I would say that I am confused by the outpouring of extremes of behavior and rhetoric within the Jewish community about what's been happening in Israel only since October 7th and not as much before. And I don't get why the conversation for Jews starts October 7th on extremes, because we could have been having this conversation at any other point, and yet it's now.
Interesting. So I assume you mean people across the political spectrum, like somehow everything started October 7th.
Particularly in extremes.
Yep.
There's been debates about things going on in Israel within the Jewish community centuries.
Yes.
But it's been okay.
Yes.
And we've had the conversation about water, land, boundaries, Muslims, Arabs, West Bank, Gaza, history, politics, forever. Okay, that's ongoing. It's a thing.
So
October.
Just to interject for a second, it is really interesting because in terms of the footage, in terms of the numbers of people killed in Israel initially, on October 7th, it does stand out. But in terms of it's not like it was that moment signified some massive transformation in the political alignment or realities there. I appreciate what you're saying.
So that's one answer, that I have been surprised and baffled that within the Jewish community, there have been so much extreme, that there has been so much extreme rhetoric on different sides of the political spectrum that has led to a lot of other fissures in the Jewish community.
Yeah.
And we haven't really been following our own cultural and religious liturgy about being able to hold multiple truths while we talk together.
Gosh, yeah, that's so right. Because it is,
that's hard.
Right. If there's any tradition that should be well equipped to handle radically different readings on what X, Y, and Z means, it's ours. And yet
we should be able to do that.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? I don't.
I am really baffled. It's been really painful and confusing to me why. I mean, here you and I both have kids and gone to Jewish day school. And that's something that they learn at school, is that the rabbis hardly ever agreed. And we read and we ask them to read so many different responses to all kinds of topics.
Well, maybe it just signifies, I mean, maybe it just illustrates the extent to which people in the Jewish community don't actually, what primarily shapes the way we think about things is maybe the broader cultural lenses that don't come from the Jewish tradition. In other words, like social media is a larger effect on how people are going to think about any pressing topic than is the Gemara, and its multifaceted debates. I don't know.
But do you think a teenager or a young adult who has studied Talmud and Gemara could scroll through TikTok and figure out how to manage multiple messages? Don't you think?
What a great thought experiment. I mean, practically speaking, no. But what I mean is, like, if somebody, let's say you do a deep, this is getting even weirder. Let's just say you download all of the Talmudic debate and you're deliberately using the Talmudic world of multifaceted truth and holding multiple opinions and Hillel and Shammai. You're using that as your primary lens, and then you go through TikTok. I do think that would make a difference in how you respond to things. But anyway, it's such a
Don't dismiss that, Josh. I think you just invented a new chatbot.
Let's do it.
That's awesome.
We'll make dozens of dollars from this app. We're going to imagine. But anyway, no, it's been really, and the consequences, it's not just hurt feelings. I mean, I don't have to tell you this, and I'm actually interested if you think that a museum can be a center for kind of addressing these kinds of gulfs, but it's not just hurt feelings and people writing angry things to their friends on Facebook. It's, the community is, you said fissures. There truly are profound fissures, people who will never meet each other because this group of people is committed to never being in the same synagogue as these people or coming to public events, or, these people just aren't going to attend that. I mean, it's very consequential what we've allowed to happen. And I'm sure I've tried it sometimes to be part of the healing, but I've also been part of the problem. So, yeah.
But I think that has to all be okay if we're actually going to find a place to come together.
What do you mean that all has to be okay?
It has to be okay that sometimes I, as an individual, feel like I need to scream out loud and yell and get frustrated and not be productive about it. And then other times be open to listen to others that are in that place or in a different place or whatever. There has not been an acceptance of the spectrum of behavior that follows, the spectrum of these fissures.
Yeah. If I can just share a little story very recently. So I've put Collab on hiatus. So for people listening to this now, before there was Art Lab, there was something that I started called Collab Reimagine Jewish, and it eventually moved in a different direction. But I had reason recently, I was going back over my old email lists. I used to use MailChimp for Collab to send to people emails from Collab about what's going on. And I started noticing, in my mind, it was a while ago, that the list, which had been at about 1,000, had diminished down to 800. It got up to about just under 1,000. And then then there's an email I send, and then after that email, it starts declining a little bit each week. And I looked at what was that email where I peaked. I sent out an email. I think it was a couple, maybe a month after October 7th ish. And I said, listen, I'm a Zionist and I'm not going to hide that. I'm proud, and it's important to me that Israel is a place for Jews. That was also acknowledging many sides of the debate, my own discomfort with aspects of the Israeli government, the importance of opening our communities to people who disagreed with us. I tried to make it as multifaceted as possible. And as soon as I sent that email, the email unsubscribe rate begins to consistently kind of chip away. So, eventually lost 20% of the subscribers. So I don't know what that means for our moment, but it's discouraging.
It's discouraging. I would also add that perhaps those 20% aren't people that you wanted to talk to anyways.
Maybe, yeah.
I would also think about how it was important to you to put that
Sure.
out there.
Yeah, I don't regret it.
And you wouldn't take it back. So 20%, is that really significant to you? I don't know. You have to think about that.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I don't regret it. It was the best, most compassionate and honest voice I could muster. And yeah, it is what it is, but I think it's a little discouraging.
Yeah.
So as someone who's part of the world of Jewish culture, whether it's museums or any other work that's happening, do you think that there are things that people who work in Jewish culture can do to try to heal this or to create opportunities for, and what would that look like?
I mean, I think before October 7th, there were just probably lots of feelings that hadn't been dealt with. And so this has been also a place to put anger,
yes,
sadness, the frustration.
Yes.
So fine. So based on where we are right now, I think there are a couple things that the Jewish communities anywhere can do, and that people that lead Jewish organizations can do. And one of those is that maybe putting aside as not the first message, I am a X, but to invite people to come together, because I think part of the first problem that we have is that people don't genuinely want to listen right now. They're too busy yelling. And you can't bring people together that don't actually want to be together. And so creating spaces where there isn't yelling and there isn't declaration, I think needs to happen. So like JCCs that have gyms and chess and mahjong and food and no declarations, just community, just being together. I think we have to go back to a lot of that basic needs.
Yeah.
Togetherness, community, no declarations. It doesn't matter that I am X and you are Y, Z, A, B, C.
Right.
And maybe we agree on 3 things. Like, we'll get there, but I think we have to get rid of that from the beginning.
That's actually,
and build back up.
That's so wise. Yeah. Just being able to meet at, I am a Jew, or I am part of the Jewish community. Let that be our identifier.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I love that.
So a museum could be open to that space and allow people to come in to explore.
Yeah.
There's a whole camp about how museums are not neutral spaces. And I think that has been both productive for culturally specific museums and also really challenging for all kinds of museums that have presented history or science in a certain way. And then this mantra about museums not being neutral has given way to a wider variety of messaging at museums. So keeping museums as trustworthy spaces, I think, also needs to have some of this peeling back.
Boy, that is so...
Forgetting about declaring and just being open spaces to invite people into community to be together. Kind of strip away a little bit.
God, that's so interesting. So as I understand what you're saying, there's a debate among museums that I imagine comes out of postmodern deconstructionist kind of perspectives that has to do with saying, museums present themselves as objective, but they always are representing some view, so we should be suspicious of that. I imagine you agree with at least part of that, but you're saying it's also been corrosive?
Yeah. I think it's become particularly complicated to have that as a tenet, that this whatever museum is not neutral, and then present exhibits from there is leading to some of this polarization or fissure.
So what can a museum, I mean,
about presenting history?
I mean, listen, because I accept
it's not all bad.
I accept the premise. I mean, one can't, any time you're going to address anything and say X, you're excluding a billion other perspectives. So there's something fundamentally true about it. But what can museums do in the face of that? How do they own the fact that it's necessarily perspectively framed, but not embrace that and with runaway ideological presentations? That's the question.
I think just provide the caveat. Like, lots of museums have land acknowledgements. They're just on the wall or on the building.
Yeah.
And that's just an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
I think an acknowledgement of an exhibit that includes thoughts or history or resources or objects from a traditional Western canon, and then also includes other voices. Like, all you have to do is just say that.
So how has this concern or debate informed your work at the museum?
I mean, every day. Public space. I want to make sure that people that come into a public space are open enough to learn what we have to present and able to ask questions if they don't agree or they don't understand.
Yeah.
And the intent is not to tell people what to think, but is to help them think about how to think about this topic.
And is that cloud of concerns, or that web of concerns in your present work, is that relevant to the art side of the museum, or more the Holocaust Memorial Museum? So can you give me an example of something with the art where that's been live for you, or where you had some concerns and wanted to make sure to address it right?
Sure. We have an awesome, really beautiful psychedelic art exhibit by this awesome guy, Steve Marcus.
Yes.
He's super creative. He brings all of his life's work and experiences to his art. And some of the symbolism that he uses reflects really super religious motifs.
Yeah.
A lot of people in Portland, especially Jewish people in Portland, don't either welcome that or know what it is. And so that hasn't been a negative. It's just a learning moment.
Yes.
So presenting really religious motifs with like counterculture motifs of smoking pot or Yiddish swear words or Ken Kesey, all of that together. That's really interesting.
Yes.
And so presenting that to an audience as interesting art and not as Hasidic irony.
Right.
Even though they're both true.
I get it.
Leaves it open for different people to be able to interact with it.
Actually, Steve Marcus is...
So we're always thinking about that.
Yeah, Steve Marcus is
always about messaging and bring people in.
And I'm hoping I'm going to have him on the podcast in a couple of weeks.
Great.
His work is a wonderful encapsulation, actually, of what we've been talking about, because it is... And folks, if folks who have not seen it should go down to the museum. It's really magnificent. Just on the surface, it's beautiful, but it really encapsulates this Jewish multivocality that we've been talking about, or multivalence, adjacent images that come from radically different perspectives that are presented together. That's so beautiful. Tell me, we've got just a little bit of time left. And I wish we had a couple of hours because there's so much I'd love to talk to you about, but tell me about, gosh, at this moment with, the Israel debate, with anxiety, well-founded anxiety about anti-Semitism, What does the Oregon Jewish Museum and Center for Holocaust Education, what's its challenge in this moment? And I'm focusing on the Holocaust education part. What is, how do you address this dangerous moment in our culture with those kinds of communal resources?
I mean, I think there are a number of challenges. We are based in Portland, and it is so important for lifelong learners, not just kids K-12 across the state, to understand the history of the Holocaust, why it happened, what happened, how to address a unique event in history, and how to think about how it shouldn't ever happen again in relationship to the experiences of the survivors that can still tell their stories. So access is a huge challenge. We have our biggest segmented staff at the museum is for education across the state.
Yeah.
And we're still not able to provide equally to every kid in school, regardless of the kind of school, access to this education. So we have been investing in having donors support digitizing our exhibitions so that they're available for folks that can't come to the museum, providing sets of books to teachers specifically for their grade about the Holocaust that is age appropriate, plus providing curricula to go with those books so the teachers know how to teach them, providing teacher training in a very competitive market in the state of Oregon for training teachers on all subjects.
Right.
The Holocaust is not the first, second, or sixth choice.
Yeah.
It's usually below that. So making sure that that network of support for teachers and access for students is always top of mind for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's when I was, I just can't, it's hard to overstate how important that work is at this moment. I mean, I'm not telling you something you don't know. I'm just marveling. I'm marveling at the fact that these fundamental questions are still with us. So I want to, in a moment, ask you these two kind of more lighthearted questions so we can close down this conversation. But I just want to say, you sent out a note, the museum sent a note out recently that you're going to be stepping away from your role in the museum. And I just want to thank you for what you've done in the community since you arrived here. And you shared, I think before we turn on the mics, that you guys are going to be remaining in Portland. So that's wonderful news for us here. You've been awesome to work with in Art Lab and have been a great partner, continuing that partnership with the museum. I'm really grateful for you making time and for the work you've done in the community. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Josh.
So listen, the two questions I like to ask people is just something you love, can be anything that you want people to know about and get hip to.
I have just started climbing at a bouldering gym, and it is both mind and body zen. It's awesome.
My son, two of my sons are getting really into rock climbing. Where do you climb? Where can people find you?
Circuit gym.
Oh, okay. They're at Portland. Well, anyway, people don't need to know.
A couple different.
That's so great. What do you like about it? Because it's difficult.
It's hard, but I don't care. I can go at my own pace. Kids can run around and go at their own pace.
Such a great experience.
Do his own pace. Yeah.
Awesome. And then most importantly, what is the best Jewish food?
The best Jewish food in Portland or the best Jewish food ever?
What is the best Jewish food, period? Question mark.
Chocolate babka.
Yeah. I think that has to be the right answer.
No hesitation.
Yeah. And where does one get good chocolate babka in Portland, Oregon? Or do you have it? Are you one of these people who has it shipped in from Zabar's or something?
I don't have it shipped in, at least not yet. Usually it means a trip to LA or New York.
Yeah. I was in the presence of somebody yesterday, made me very happy, who was making chocolate babka at home. So awesome. I know, it was really awesome. Anyway, Rebekah Sobel, I really appreciate your time, and I know that we'll see each other soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the opportunity, Josh. It's great to see you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.